Let's solve a question on how to find demand function for good x1 given the utility function and budget constraint. Question is, if utility function of a consumer is u is equal to x1 into x2, x1 and x2 are the two goods, u denotes the utility function, and budget constraint of the consumer is, that means p1 times x1 plus p2 times x2 is equal to m, where p1 is the price of good x1, p2 is the price of good x2, and m is the total income. We need to find out the demand function for good x1 at the equilibrium. Okay, so basically what we are supposed to find, we want to maximize the given utility function, that is u. Utility is a function of good x1 and x2 subject to the budget constraint. Our budget constraint is price of good 1 times units of good 1 plus price of good 2 times units of good 2, and it should be span, and that means all budget should get exhausted. That is equal to m. M denotes the total income. Now at equilibrium, the condition for equilibrium requires that what we call the first order condition also requires that the marginal rate of substitution between good 1 and 2 should be equal to the ratio of the prices of good 1 and 2. MRS is simply marginal utility of good x, okay, marginal utility of good x1 upon marginal utility of good x2. It should be equal to the ratio of the prices, that means price of good 1 upon price of good 2. mu1 denotes the partial derivative of utility function with respect to good x1 divided by marginal utility of good x2 is simply the partial derivative of utility function with respect to good x2. It should be equal to the ratio of the prices, that means p1 upon p2. Okay, now du upon dx1 means taking derivative of this function with respect to x1. Derivative of x1 is 1, so we are left with x2. So in place of du upon dx1 we get x2 divided by du upon dx2. This time we need to partially differentiate with respect to x2. Derivative of x2 is 1, so we are left with x1. It should be equal to the ratio of the prices, p1 upon p2. Solve for x1, so or let's solve for x2. That means x2 is equal to p1 upon p2 x1. Okay, but we need to find out the demand function. How do we find the demand function for good x1? What will we do? We simply plug the value of x2 back into the budget equation. So in place of x2 we write this step, that is, so we have p1 x1 plus in place of we have then p2, in place of x2 we have p1 upon p2 x1 should be equal to total income. Okay, here p2 and p2 will get cancelled, so we get p1 x1 plus p1 x1, which gets equal to twice p1 x1. Okay, so we have p1 x1 plus p1 x1, it becomes twice p1 x1, should be equal to m, which gives us x1. That means demand function for good x1 will be equal to m divided by, if I transpose it, it will become twice p1. So demand function for good x1 will be equal to twice p1. That is that is the thing we were required to find out. And symmetrically, demand function for good x2 will be equal to the total income upon twice the price of good x2. Okay, you can find out this. I hope I make myself clear in this video. Thank you.